If I had a classroom and you, my audience, were sitting in there, or maybe not you, my audience, but a general classroom, and I were to go and speak to the class and ask them the question of, show of hands, what is good English and what is bad English? I bet I would get a few answers. I would probably get things such as don't say ain't, don't use slang, kind of general answers like that. Maybe some more in-depth ones from some English majors, people that, write. And I kind of just punked the class because I asked them a question which presupposes that there is such a thing as good and bad English. There is in a sense, but not in the way that I'm phrasing the question. What I'm talking about is something called prescriptivism. Prescriptivism is what is commonly found in style guides telling people the good ways to express themselves in writing. So these would be orthographic, stylistic choices, but it can even carry further into the way in which people speak. When it does, it more often than not deals with dialectical, I guess, a preference for certain dialects and variant forms of, or I shouldn't say variant forms, variant languages over other similar dialects, languages, sociolects, etc. All these terms are hard to define, and I'm trying my best not to deal in absolute saying this is a language, because the thing is, the concept of a dialect is even somewhat contentious. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to be talking today, though, about prescriptivism, but specifically German prescriptivism. Now, in English, honestly, prescriptivism is a silly thing, and I could go on and on and on, rant and rave about it. I won't today, though. In Germany, there's an interesting, well, I guess they have their own form of it because it's unique to Germany. And I'm going to be specifically talking about prescriptivism in the country of Germany, so not Switzerland or, which I know has, does not have the prescriptivist streak that Germany does, as far as how they feel about language and language use. In Germany, they can be a little more narrow-minded. So let me get down to it. The book I have in my hand right here is actually from a popular, I would say, pretty popular series of books released by this guy named Bastian Sick. About 10 years ago. Basically, this guy is a columnist, writer, who wrote for Der Spiegel online, their website. Der Spiegel is a popular German magazine, and his column was kind of about the German language and how he saw it. But it was more often than not, he wrote about what was wrong with the German language in the modern era, what he felt were, I guess, unwanted additions or changes, or just however he decided the language is being kind of muddied, I guess you could, to put it nicely. So let me get into what this book is about, because this is where I'm going to be drawing a lot of my sources from German prescriptivism. Of course, I'll give a brief history on prescriptivism in Germany. So German as a language is a fairly recent concept, actually. The idea of a German language, one German language, is fairly new. It's something that became I guess, institutionalized or standardized, and is put into the school system with a nationalism and a one German country, as opposed to uh, pre 1871 Germany, the German Empire, where for the first time there was one government that controlled this one landmass that previously was separated into different kingdoms and dukedoms and what have you. So it became a point of certain people to standardize the language for everybody. This was mostly done, and had been done for centuries in a sense, with a standardized written form of a German language. It was sometimes, mostly used in religious contexts, starting with Martin Luther. So this would only be a couple centuries before the nation of Germany came into existence. But Martin Luther did write kind of an early standardized form of German. That one of the first forms that was used, read, spoken even by the masses for Protestant Germans. Of course, Catholics would still, if they spoke or read the Bible, it would be in Latin. So Martin Luther has standardized form. There were earlier ones that existed, but for the most part, after the nation of Germany came into existence, it became a standardized written form kind of came into being. And what you had, you still have to an extent. In Germany were a multitude, many different dialects of two main language groups, language families, related but also having their own unique features. The two language groups in the north, the main one is still is known as Low German, referring to the landscape in the north of Germany, which is much more flat. In fact, today the colloquial name for Low German dialects is Plattdeutsch, some variant of Platt, sometimes used for actually what I'll get into it in a second. So it's just a colloquial name, but Platt refers to the landscape. In the south, much more mountainous, they call it High German because of the landmass. Again, it has nothing to do with how like a social caste or linguistic caste. This one's high language. This is Hochdeutsch. But I think actually it's evolved into this idea of Hoch, which means high. Hochdeutsch, which is another name for standard German, and that's not a term used by linguists, by the way. Hochdeutsch in a linguistic frame refers to these dialects, these closely related dialects. So, what am I getting at? Okay, you had within these language families, you could literally go from village to village, and the people there would have widely different ways of speaking. By widely, different lexical terms, different grammatical structures, very differing pronunciations for similar sounding words from village to village, so that communication wouldn't be impossible, but it would be noticeably different. And with the standardized language, it was originally mostly a written thing. It's evolved into a spoken language. I think an actual living, breathing, evolving, fully functioning language. But the fact is, if you live in the north of Germany, historically speaking, and what's funny is the north, specifically in the state of this region, of Germany in the north of Germany called Lower Saxony. They claim that they speak the most pure German. Some do. I'm not saying everybody, but I've met people and I know that they say they speak the most pure, clear, the best German. Alright. I'm not going to get into why that's baloney, but let's carry on. Historically speaking, they didn't speak that variant of German dialect. They spoke a Low German dialect. Until recently, until the last half century, I would say, probably up until about the past 70 years, you could probably still find people that spoke the Low German dialects as a first language, and a standardized form supplanted the more native, I guess you could say, languages. Kind of like what's happening in China with Mandarin being kind of the official language promoted by the PRC, and closely related, sometimes actually pretty distantly as well, related languages are being slowly supplanted by a Mandarin majority speaking population. So you have aspects of language planning involved. There's a lot that goes into this, but for the most part, historically speaking, in Germany, variant dialects, now you have a standardized form which is becoming the norm. Not a bad thing exactly, but that's just how it goes. So sometimes a person that speaks a form of variant of German which is more standard may see a dialect, as they would call it now, say perhaps upper Bavarian dialect variation as being kind of substandard and derivational and wrong, just a weird way of speaking. Again, this is a kind of a poor mentality to have. I could get into it and rant about it, but I won't. Anyway, that's basically the gist of what's going on in Germany. Now, you have people who are becoming the flag bearers for standard language in Germany. One of them seems to be this guy, Bastian Sick. So he writes this book called Der Dativ ist dem Genitiv sein Tod. Okay, so what is that about? Well, first of all, what this book is it's basically a style guide for good German, and he uses that phrase a lot in this book. Good German. It's that in itself is a fallacy from a linguist perspective, saying anything is a good form as opposed to bad German spoken by native speakers of Germany. We're not talking about people that learn German as a second language. We're talking about native speakers here. So they're talking about good and bad in that sense. Bastian Sick is one of these people that says there's a good way to, mostly writing, it's a lot of like stylistic choices, saying you shouldn't use an apostrophe here and you should capitalize your words, blah blah blah. All that's a bunch of gobbledygook. But that's what he's going on, and he also talks about grammatical points as well. So it goes into how people can speak. I'll give you a good example. First of all, this is kind of a joking phrase. Der Dativ ist dem Genitiv sein Tod. So this actually kind of sums up a lot of, I guess, the state of linguistic prescriptivism in Germany as a whole. So to say dem Genitiv sein Tod is a construction that is found in certain dialects, mostly in southern Germany, of creating a possessive form. To do it, what you do is dem Genitiv is a dative construction. I'm not gonna. If you don't know, if you're not following me, I feel you. Like this is some, this is German grammar declension and stuff. So sorry, I'm gonna be using these terms because it's kind of I have to. But the Genitiv is a dative form, and sein Tod creates a possessive referring to dem Genitiv. So what it means is the Dativ is another German grammatical case. And it's saying that the dative case is the death of the genitive. And a guy like Bastian Sick, now what does this mean? What the hell is that even about? Why is that a controversy? Because it shouldn't be, but it is somehow. It's not really a big one, but there's certain people that think there's a right way of speaking and there's a wrong way. So a guy like Bastian Sick, he doesn't care for this, what he would consider substandard forms. He would prefer to use the genitive, and he almost laments that it's like the death of the genitive form. What is the genitive? The genitive is a way of forming, it's like a possessive form in German. It's mostly used in writing. In spoken day-to-day speech, it's becoming less and less common, even with prescriptivists saying you should use it. But the fact of the matter is, the genitive case has pretty much, for all intents and purposes, if you want to look at a closely related language like Dutch, has died out. It's only used in archaic, fossilized constructions. To a lesser extent in German and English, which has no case system at all, we still have remnants of the genitive case. But if you look at most Germanic languages, they have the genitive form has pretty much died out. The only Germanic language that exists today that still really uses the genitive in day-to-day speech would be Icelandic. And Icelandic is known for being oddly conservative in nature, actually. So they're an oddball language. It happens when you're isolated. German, however, is not an isolated. Germany is not an isolated country. So the languages there have developed in different patterns, and one way is the genitive case has slowly kind of been chipped away by other ways of other cases in German, mainly constructions using the dative. So he's kind of poking fun of that. There are also certain constructions you can use in German which are seen as being wrong when they use the dative and not the genitive form. So in German you can say because of the blank, because of this blank, and then the word for because of in German is Wegen. Now Wegen demands a noun which is in the genitive form. If you ask Bastian Sick, so what this means is when you say because, Wegen, the following form is going to be in the genitive. If you talk to Bastian Sick, so you could say because of the rain, blah 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 blah. If you use the genitive form of because of the rain in German is der Regen, and the genitive form, which in my opinion is archaic, not used, is seen in writing, but okay, writing is a different language. It would be des Regens. Wegen des Regens. They will say, you have to say wegen des Regens, not using the dative form, which is actually more common. Wegen and dative, the rain, wegen dem Regen. You can also see that here. So dem Genitiv, it's the dative masculine. So people, they'll look down upon maybe people that say wegen dem Regen. That's not good German. That's bad German. Yeah, bullshit. But these are the points this guy makes. Reading the kind of quotations that are promoting the book, like this is a good thing to buy. It says one guy. Well, this was written from the Saarbrücker Zeitung, so one of the main newspapers in Saarbrücken. He says that when, or in cases where the Duden, so the Duden is this big German dictionary, highly respected, I guess, in certain circles. When the Duden doesn't know it, Sick knows it. So he's saying that this guy he's an expert on the German language. He knows it. The fact is, though, he's prescribing rules which are baseless. They're just ways in which he can say, you should speak this way because I think you should speak that way. And people buy into it. And it's bullshit. It's really, really nonsense. This whole thing is filled with just nonsense. It's interesting to read because you get a perspective on the mindset of certain individuals that think about language in these terms. Now, I know Bastian Sick doesn't dislike people that speak dialects of German. In fact, I think he finds it endearing to some level. At the same time, he does believe that there is good German and bad German, and he uses countless examples. I marked up a bunch of things in this book. Yeah, it's all silly, silly stuff. He constantly refers to, he kind of gives suggestions more like kind of like the Ten Commandments style of demand, saying you can do this, you can't do that. That's how he rolls. He doesn't like English loan words very much. He does seem to like French loanwords. I did see this video online where he kind of glamorizes how lovely and refined the French language is. This is another stupid, in my opinion, of course, mindset that certain people have. So anyway, German prescriptivism is not unlike actually English prescriptivism, which has kind of a mix between people arguing over orthographic style choices and prescribing certain various grammatical constructions. For instance, saying that the genitive, we shouldn't, we should use the genitive constructions more than dative constructions or what have you. There's more examples. Anyhow, I hope this little brief 22-minute long video was informative. I could go longer, but I think I'll cut it off here. Alright.